Greatness. Greatness. Bow, bow, bow. Greatness.
There are 2 times to be great, when you feel like it and when you don't. Welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Tyler Sanchez, and joined with me is my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying, those who stay will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion. Let's go, baby.
There's the ring kiss. On this podcast, we teach you how to flip your mindset by talking through how you renew your perspective, move towards uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation. If you missed last week's podcast, you can head over to wherever you listen to your podcast on, whatever platform that may be, and search Renewing the Mind podcast. Or you can check out the YouTube version or the video version of this podcast on YouTube. Last week, we talked about Resilient Kids Part 3, grow with gas, and hit on 3 points, fail fast, master the process, and win the day.
Yes. Amen.
It's a good one. Also, you taught me how to ride a bike on Valencia's.
Yes, with the towel.
Yeah, I got a lot of comments on that thumbnail. So if you haven't seen that, head
That's
over
awesome.
there, check out the thumbnail I set on Valencia's little bike. And
Yeah. We have a whole train of kids from over the years who've been taught that way. Super young kids just learn how to write and just learn how to ride and just opening up a bunch of freedom. That's
Sweet.
Awesome.
Before we go any further, we gotta address these mugs. I mean,
They're so hot because it's just
look at these
fire.
things. Get
Straight
a nice
fire.
close up on that. I mean, if you can see this, we got the matte black. We got this the gloss writing that wraps around renew, move, find, and then we got the Renewing the Mind podcast logo with our 3 pillars on there.
It's heavy.
And
You can put
16
some fingers
ounces.
in there. Almost 3 full fingers.
It feels good. It's got the gloss and the matte contrast. If you would like one of these mugs, hit us up in the comments. We'll respond back to you in the process and how to
I ain't even gonna
purchase
lie.
one of these.
I'm always cold. I don't run hot at all. I'm always cold, but I could see myself drinking nice coffee like around a fire, cuddled up with mom.
I mean, the older you get, the more you like blankets.
Hey.
only-
Cut.
We're
cut.
only a couple
Rice,
weeks away,
rice.
a couple months away from you
Shh,
chilling.
wait. We got bad connection.
Chilling in a blanket, 2-handed, holding the mug. But seriously, if you would like one of these mugs, to purchase one of these mugs, put your name in the comments. Let us know. Reach out to us. We can show you the process on how to purchase one. They're awesome. You know, we kind of designed these as a team, and as they're coming through, you just see proofs back forth, and
Yes.
we never got to hold one in our hand until the final product came. And so you're always a little nervous, you know, when you order
Correct.
something online. But these things are, I mean,
I like
they're
it.
perfect. We couldn't have designed a better
It's
mug.
a 16-ounce mug, so it's big.
It's awesome. Helps promote the podcast.
Yep.
And hopefully starts conversation on getting people aware of Renewing the Mind podcast.
Correct.
Sweet. Before we jump into today's content, we have a segment we like to call a WHAT moment.
What?
WHAT is an acronym that stands for what's awesome about that. Just basically asking the question, what's awesome about that in any situation you go through, especially in some of the tougher ones. Try to pull out something that you can see as good in the midst of bad.
Correct.
You got a WHAT moment?
I do. So my WAT moment is our team here. We're always trying to level up each other. We're always trying to like get groups, you know, a group workout in, group bike ride, group things like this. We've been trying to get Bryce out because Bryce is a little sheltered. So what would happen?
Facts.
Well, that's facts. What happened was we were all trying to put bikes on. Like, hey, get a bike. Bryce finally got a bike. We're talking about going to Sertoma Hills. Like, let's run some hills. You know, let's go get about 8-mile ride. Bryce was a little bit nervous. So he brings a buddy out to where we live. Sergeant Bluff's pretty flat. And we went on a bike ride. And we're just cruising around town, nice and easy, nothing, just conversation. About 3-4 miles in, we ended up doing about 8 miles, but about 3-4 miles in, I look over and Bryce has the biggest smile I've ever seen in my life. I'm like, either that dude has gas or he found his inner child. He's literally bouncing up and down. He's riding, he's giddy, he's looking around. And you crack a joke, that boy like just falls over on his bike and he's just pedaling, swerving,
having
having
the time
fun.
of his life.
It was so amazing. And for Bryce, is like, oh, I can't work out, I get sore, you know, all these excuses. Like the next day, he brings his bike out and did the exact same routine.
Yeah.
I'm like, let's go. Talk about what's what. You know, and here's the thing. People ask me all the time, like, how do you start exercising? You know, honestly, I don't have the magic pill or anything like that. Jump in, see how it feels. Jump in, collect the data, see how it feels, you know.
So you find something you enjoy.
Yeah, right. He joined the team of bike riders in our team. Let's go, Bryce.
Ragbri next year.
Yes, 100-mile day.
Whoa.
A century ride, Bryce.
I don't know about that one. That's a little
maybe a 5-year
maybe there's
goal.
a couple
5-year goal.
yeah, there's a couple steps in between that, I feel.
5-year goal.
Sweet. Well, today we wanted to talk about privilege. So on last podcast, I know we mentioned that we were going to jump into resilient parents and go parenting, but with the current landscape and situation and culture, everything that is going on and the conversations that are being had, we wanted to just have a real conversation and kind of just leave with a couple points to take away, a couple things that we can bring our your expertise into, and talk about privilege. And the three things we're going to talk about is what is it, why me, and are you immune?
Correct.
So let's jump into that. Privilege. Just answer the question. What is it?
Yeah. So a quick definition, really quick, is privilege is a special right, an advantage, or an immunity that's granted to you, or it's only available to a particular person or to a particular group. So I see privilege as like a shield, and it's granted to you. It's nothing you've done to earn it. It's granted, like somebody gives it to you or somebody doesn't. And just a quick idea, I think about this as a country club. So I got a bunch of buddies, whoever that are members in country clubs, they'll invite me to go golfing. Sometimes if I beat them there, I kind of walk down, kind of go around, and they come up to me, not like...
Beat them, like arrive before them.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
I arrive there before they get there, correct. Thanks for correcting that. And then if they see me, they'll just kind of come out to me and like, sir, can I help you? It's not that like it's racist or privileged or anything like that. Right at that point, they're just like, check me. Like, hey, who are you? Can I help you? A few minutes later, my buddy shows up, and all of a sudden they quickly see him like, hey, sir. And boom, his cart's here. His clubs are here. All these pieces are here. They're like, hey, sir, can I get you anything else? Right. And then when they see I'm the guest, they'll say, hey, excuse me, sir, do you need anything? Right. So I didn't have privilege. And then all of a sudden my buddy shows up. His privilege covers me. And now they're trying to get me Gatorade. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yep. That's
privilege. Either you have it or you don't. I didn't do anything to earn it. I didn't do anything not to earn it. It's just granted to me. Okay. So that's the definition of privilege I want you to kind of hang on to as we move through our conversation today.
We want to talk about a video. What was the title of the video?
Privilege Explained.
Okay, Privilege Explained. We'll put that on the Facebook post, and then also put the link to it on our YouTube. And then if you're watching or listening to this on the podcast, just head over to our Facebook page and where we post this, and you can check out the link there.
YouTube page.
Yep, YouTube page as well. The video basically just starts everyone on a line. Correct. And it's a teacher talking to a group of students, and he explains that we're all in this running race of life, right?
Correct.
We're on this path where we all start, where we're born, and we all die. We're running this race of life, and then he starts just asking questions that allow people to take steps forward. So he says, if you are, born with two parents in the home, take 2 steps forward.
Correct.
If both your parents have a job, take 2 steps forward.
Correct.
Do you remember any of the other questions? It just goes up.
If you've ever had to work your whole teenage years.
Yeah, you worked as a teenager. If you just all these basically questions that
if you've had to use your check to help your parents pay bills.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a bunch of different questions like that. Nothing to do with really who they are or their ability.
Correct.
But basically other things outside of kind of what they're born into.
Correct.
And so then by the end of his question asking, they are all at different places on the starting block, pretty much. Correct. And they're still the same start and they're still the same finish, but certain people are way further ahead than others.
Correct.
And then he says, hey, at the end of this race, we are going to give you the winner $100 or whatever it was. And then everyone starts at the exact same time and everyone has the same end goal and finish.
Correct.
And so the video basically explains that for reasons out of a lot of their control, you start at different places in life.
Yes. So now we have the backdrop of our conversation for right now. Okay. So basically the idea of privilege is either you have the covering or you don't. And if you have the covering of the privilege or the shield, how much is it? How much did it grant you? Right. So privilege gives us a head start, but privilege doesn't by itself win us the race.
Yep.
And if you look at that video, when he says, whoever gets to this line on your mark, get set, goes, gets $100. When he blows the whistle, some people at the start line didn't even run. And some people in the middle, all the way up to the close, didn't even run. And some people sprinted. Some people jumped off the line and sprinted because I thought, well, I might not win, but I'll get further. Okay. The concept for us is that race is not a 100-yard sprint. That race is lifetime. This is the starting block. So when we think about privilege, it sucks or it's amazing, but it's not your life. It's not your destiny. It's not your end game. It's the start gun. Boom. Now, yeah, you might not have two parents and you might be stuck or you might be in the middle. But here's the craziest thing in the world. I've seen people who've dropped way out in privilege and they just sit there the whole entire life. Like your parents are super wealthy. You got a car, brand new car at 16. You graduate high school, you go to college because you have a college fund and you flunk out. Now you're back at your parents' house. They've just kind of pooped out their privilege. You know, and then you've seen other people like me, for example, who starts at the starting block and you've climbed past most people in the world. Like I'm a minority with a PhD. That's less than half of 1% of the world. Right.
Yep.
So here's the concept. Privilege is something you have or you don't have, but it's not the end game.
It doesn't define your success in life.
Definitely is not going to define
It kind of shapes it.
Yeah. It's a starting block.
Yep.
Right. And then you've got to run through a gauntlet a little bit. You've got to kind of maybe start uphill. Other people start downhill, but it's just the beginning of the race.
Yep.
It's no different than if we're running a marathon and you get like a 6 mile head start on me. When you run and I run, because of my miles per hour, I could still beat you time wise. Right? Like I could finish the marathon in 2.5 hours and you finish in 2 hours and 41 minutes, but I still ran 6 miles than you. Do you get what I'm saying? This is why it falls back to some of our other talks where this is a you versus you game. I don't care how far you started and how fast you're going. I stay in my lane. I keep my head down. I follow my goals and I'll still pass you up.
Yep.
Okay. That's awesome.
Well, we've all seen the amazing videos that go viral of the track and field star that got the baton in the relay race and he's 200 meters behind or 100 meters behind and he trucks down the person in front and wins. Like that's kind of how that video is really, it doesn't matter how you or when you get the baton, it's how fast you run when we all start.
That's correct.
Okay. Next, why me?
Okay. So
the question we ask ourselves or
should.
Yeah.
So the why me question is I've heard this from both sides, especially now since, the culture that we're in. And, because of the death of George Floyd, like the murder of him, everybody's asking, like, what can I do to help people with privilege, people without privilege, dark-skinned people, light-skinned people, all walks of people who come to my clinic have asked me, what can I do? What should I be doing? What's my obligation? So in order to decipher that stuff, we have to ask this question of why me? Like, where am I at? So some people who blinded real far out say, well, what do I do with my privilege? It's not my fault. We've worked hard. Correct.
But your parents worked hard.
Well, your parents worked hard, right? And so this question of why me is ask this question, first of all, like, do you deserve to be where you're at when you dropped into the world? So I was born into an alcoholic, perhaps bipolar father, right? A very young mom. And I was born through not a consensual relationship. And so my mom had a big decision to keep me, not to abort me, to adopt, all those pieces. And then she decided to keep me. I'm here. And then he suicided. So if you take a look at where I'm at, if it's possible, I got spoofed back behind the line. Okay. But here's the idea. I'm on the line.
You had to take 2 steps back.
Kind of. I mean, yeah. Because I land, I shouldn't even been here because it wasn't consensual, right? That's my mom's story to tell, not mine. But that's the facts. And then, so my mom did the right thing, in my opinion. I'm here. Okay. So that's where we start. Before I was 2, my dad suicided. Now what? I have a, young mom, right? And now what? What do we do? Where do we go? We're minorities in Texas. So you have to take a look at something like, did I deserve that? No, that's how I dropped into the world. Somebody who's born, you're born to 2 teenage parents. Did you deserve that? No, you're just born. Valencia, who's born into 2 parents who, degreed parents, who have their own business. Did she deserve that? No. But if you just take a look at our life, all our kids are dropped in a different, spot on the privilege scale. And here's the idea. No matter where you're at on that scale, if you simply ask this question, why me? Did I deserve to be born on that line? No. Then I can take away the hurt of not having the privilege. It's not my fault. I did nothing to deserve to be here. So, okay, now what? What's my goals? What do I want to achieve? What makes me happy? What brings me passion? What is something I do in life that even though I burn a bunch of calories and I exert a bunch of energy, that I actually feel rebuilt. I call that a recovery. So when I go shoot my bow, I'm sweaty, burned calories, but I come back super energized because it's like standing meditation, right? We go work on tree stands, cut some tree limbs. We come back all jacked, all excited. There's some recovery skills that we do that make us not realize we burned energy. What is that? We call that passion. If you lock into your passion, it doesn't matter where you started in life, you're going to climb. Now, you could drop to 2 physician parents, or you could drop to 2 millionaire parents. They both have independent entrepreneur companies, and you're miserable more than crap. Why? Your parents are out working. They're killing it. They're beasts in their field, and you're home alone. You're homeschooled, perhaps. You could have all the privilege in the world, and I could look up to you, be like, dang, I wish I was that dude. But that person's miserable. Why? Because they haven't locked into their personal passion.
Well, we see that all the time. You see even celebrities or millionaires. I mean,
Yes.
That doesn't guarantee happy life.
No.
That's clear.
No, and this is the issue. So many people land where they land and they're mad, they're hurt. They're just like, I can't do it. This isn't real.
It immediately goes into a resentment for others.
Yes.
And I don't like you because you were there. And instead of, it gets back to that a couple shows ago, that you versus you, like you said,
Yes.
where that can't affect me.
Right.
What that person was born into and what I wasn't.
Yes.
At some point, you have to just chalk it up to, it is what it is.
Yes.
You know,
You're 16, you get a brand new
regret.
F-150 pickup. I'm driving some janky $800 car.
That's actually my life.
What do? Do you go kick that dude in the nards and be like, I hate you?
When you go to Wendy's, you have to tell them you got to put the food in the back window because my front window doesn't roll down.
Or my first year as a psychologist, I'm driving with my car, and if I touch the thing that all that flaked on me, like, this is, here's the idea. Like, nobody built me a college fund, so I had to do it all myself. And there's sacrifices, and those were cars. Here's the issue, though. You could be happy for your $800 car. Actually, the coolest thing about your car is you took Toro around and let him sit in the front seat because it was just a janky car.
And I shot it
and
with
you had
my
like
paintball gun.
And I bought you a dope stereo where like the whole car lit up, and you could just like, depends on your mood, light up colors. We just tried to make it, comfortable for you.
I don't know if you bought me that or I bought it, but I had one
for you.
Yeah,
I felt sorry for you.
I don't know about that.
Like $800 car.
I think I saved up for a couple of years. But the other thing I think about is like, your mindset was like, I think you said it on the Who We Are podcast when you found out that you were going to have a child at 16. You said, I don't want him to grow up fatherless like I did.
Correct.
So at some point, there's a responsibility that as parents, we say, well, I didn't have privilege. I wasn't born into privilege, but I would like my kids to stand on my shoulders. Right.
That's 110%.
And that's the mindset we have to have.
Yes.
So I didn't have it, but I want the next generation of my family to have it.
Yes. So let's unpack that real quick. You mentioned the word, would you say responsibility? Okay. I was going to say authority, but it's responsibility. The second you have a responsibility, that automatically says behind that, you had an awareness, and that awareness has to break your current mindset. So for us, our mugs, renew, move, find. That first step is to renew your perspective. Oh my gosh, like this happened to me, right? Your very first concept is, what if I change the perspective really quickly? Take this away from me, like, oh man, I put my perspective on you. I got to do something different. Or I don't want you to be hurt like I was as a little kid. Father's Day, family little tree day, you have no dad showing up, everybody's picking on you, you get a bunch of fights. Like, that ain't going to be my kid. Okay. Same thing with me. Like, everybody sophomore year is talking about going to college. I hadn't even taken the ACT. Right. My supervisor, my guidance counselor says, son, actually, he said, kid, you're just not college material. Right. Okay. So what do? Go home and cry? Do I go home and smoke pot? Or do I go, what do I have to do? So I changed my perspective. I'm like, I suck at reading. I don't even try. What would happen if I tried? So yes, 110%, I have to take responsibility for where I'm at, not for my privilege that I have or I don't have, but where I'm at. Now, once I take responsibility, that already means I've already renewed my perspective because I became self-aware. That self-awareness is the key to life. I've never met anybody who's successful who has no self-awareness.
And once you know, you can't unknow.
And once you know, you can't unknow.
Shout out to 6 Stages of Change.
Correct. This is so important.
One of the things I thought about was like, take privilege out of it, that's a life lesson that you just went through on anything in life. So
Yes.
for instance, my whole life, I've ate the same stuff my friends ate, and I gained weight and they stayed the same.
Yes.
I grew up with a bunch of friends who could have 4, junior bacon cheeseburgers, a large fry, and spicy chicken nuggets. Shout out to Wendy's, and not put on any weight.
Yeah.
I have 2 of them, and I go up 2 pounds on the scale.
Yes.
And so at some point in my life, I've been with that mentality that I was genetically, passed down to put on weight more than other people around me.
Yeah.
And at what point in my life did I've let that rule my life for so long, rather than saying, okay, it is what it is.
Yes.
My genetic makeup and my starting place for my metabolism, my ability to burn fat and carbs is not what other people's is.
Yes. And
So is that going to define me for the rest of my life? Terrence,
Yes.
my brother, same
Correct.
exact family. The dude can't put on weight.
Correct.
The dude smashes food constantly.
We made him have 2 chicken sandwiches, George Foreman grills chicken sandwiches at 10 p.m. to gain weight.
I remember I came home in college and he was a freshman and you were cooking him a steak at night.
Yes.
Well, a steak at night, I didn't get a steak ever. You were cooking him a steak to go to bed.
Trying
Talk
to
about
make-
privilege.
That dude's like the fastest dude in the state.
I asked for protein.
But he weighs like a paperweight.
Look, I asked for protein in high school and you said I didn't have protein. I ate raw eggs like Rocky.
Correct.
And you're making this guy a steak. That's
It's
privilege.
protein. It's protein.
I didn't
Okay,
start
that's
where
true.
Terrence started.
That's a few steps ahead.
No,
That's
but
correct.
the fact
You had
is,
rice and beans. He got steak and chicken.
yeah, I was just talking to I got a youth intern at the church, Josh Ruby, and we were just talking about
What up,
this.
Jay Rube?
We were just talking about this the other night. Is that like at some point you have to just say like, hey, this isn't something I can do, or this is where I'm at, and now what do you do with that?
Yeah.
You just have to admit that
Yes.
this is where I'm at, and now I can either move forward or I'm
That's
not.
the
going
self-awareness.
I'm
I'm
going to be big the rest of my life, or I got to
Yes.
realize I can't have carbs.
You can't become responsible. You can't take ownership of your life, and you can't become resilient because all of that lands on self-awareness. This is why in our house we punish every boy. I shouldn't say punish. We discipline. If you give an excuse, you'll push-ups. Why? Because when I was like, I can't read, I was a C student. And I took notes and I studied my notes. I just wouldn't read the book. Why? Because reading sucks. I didn't know I had dyslexia. I just knew I suck at reading. But it wasn't until somebody told me this is as high as you can go that I thought, well, what if I renew my perspective here? What if I could learn? What if learning sucks, reading sucks for me? What if I could figure that out? Everybody, okay, that's just your metabolism. I can't fix me because that's just my metabolism. Bryce, I'm not a workout dude. I can't get a bike. I would die. Everybody gives an excuse and that keeps you pinned. Nobody deserves their privilege. We all land. Nobody deserves to be stuck. Nobody deserves to be, 2 miles ahead. We all land. That's just what's given to us. It's our job to be able to have self-awareness enough to say, okay, let's move, let's do, let's go. And here's the issue. On that race, everybody is marginalized. Marginalized is this. As for me, as a Mexican, I'm marginalized because people say, bro, you're Mexican? Yes. Where are you born in Mexico? And I'll say, I was born in Texas. And they go, what? And then they just push me away. What they're saying is you're not Mexican. Do you understand?
Yep.
Okay. Other people come up to me and say like, hey, where were you born? And I'll say Texas. So when did you come from Mexico? I'm like, what? I'm from Texas. Oh, so your mom and dad must have migrated from Mexico. In other words, you must have snuck over here somewhere.
At some point, yep.
Okay. Everybody wants to marginalize me. Everybody wants to see where I'm at, and they want to put me back in the line somewhere where they think I belong. Okay. This is crazy. But when I used to speak in prison for prison fellowship, and I was a trainer and I bring a team of 12 people, I'm the head dude training all these people. Minorities would come up to me, all types of minorities. And they say, hey, bruh, when was you adopted? I was like, what? When was you adopted? You said your dad died. Yeah, he died. I wasn't adopted though. How'd you go to college? Do you see their mindset? So I could say, oh man, they're racist. They're not racist. They're trying to discriminate against the privilege. You had a PhD. You said your mom was a teen parent. You said your dad died. When did you get adopted? Do you get that?
Yeah, it's a pattern that they've seen.
It's a pattern they've seen. Like the only dudes who get out of the hood because their dad died, they got picked up and got adopted. Maybe an uncle came in, maybe a grandparent. Do you see what I'm saying? That's not racism. What that is they're trying to understand my privilege. How did you get there? And when I say I just had to grind, man, football scholarship. How'd you know you could get a scholarship? I didn't. How'd you know it would work? I didn't. How'd you get big? Rice and beans, raw eggs, working out every single morning at 6 a.m. What if you wouldn't get it? I was like, I wouldn't even consider it. I had colleges that I stacked, Nebraska, Iowa, all this stuff. And then, I went to NDSU, and then they're like, oh, but what if it wouldn't have worked? Like I worked out every day. Every time I had that fear, I went and worked out. If I had that fear, I'd do push-ups.
Yeah, but how do you get someone to say, like you said, I can't read, I can't read, I can't read? At some point you said, man, I can't read.
Correct.
Let me fix that.
Correct.
You get what I'm saying?
Correct.
Like, how do you make that switch?
For me personally, it's when somebody tells me the door's closed. Like generically in my head, like, dang, I can't read.
You want to go against them.
Yeah, because like, okay, generically.
You want to prove them wrong.
Well, it's when there's no option. Like, dude, I suck at reading. I need to fix that. Yeah, Monday. Yeah, next year. My New Year's resolution.
That's my favorite line.
Yes.
I'll start Monday.
See, I'm just what people don't understand. I'm the same. I'm just years ago. I'm the same. When people say I can't do that because I'm like, bro, I've been there. And they go, yeah, right, you. People don't understand that. They see my privilege now and they think I got dropped by some dad who adopted me, some grandpa who had a college fund, where I just kind of like just played dot to dot my whole life and just like checked in. Like, oh, so I'm going to this university because my grandpa's got privilege there and I can go for free. No, that's not me. That's not us. Here's the issue. Everybody wants to believe that. Why? Because it gives my lie authority to sit and pin myself. So for me, I suck at reading. I suck at reading. I suck at reading. And then somebody says, because you suck at reading, you're stuck. And what actually triggered me is we did this stupid like job profession thing, like inventory is what they call it. And the top job was bricklayer. And he's like, do you like working with your hands? I was like, well, I cook. I like to cook. And he's like, yeah, you should become a trade guy and you should work with your hands. I was like, I want to go to college. And he's like, kid, you're not college material.
Yep.
That's when he shut the door in my face. I'm like, watch me. There's got to be another way.
Yep.
Right. So for me, if I get told no in my face, that's the renewing the mindset piece. So now because I can't keep going this way, I was forced to look somewhere else. Yep. I didn't like develop this because I'm a genius. I got pushed into it.
So really, you just got to find something that motivates you, whether it's to prove people wrong or to get yourself a better life or to pass on privilege that you didn't have.
Correct.
The thing I thought about was like the same thing of being born privileged or not is the same thing like people get mad about certain talents, abilities that they do or don't have.
Yes.
In that same conversation with Josh, I was telling him, like, yeah, sometimes I get mad that I struggle with weight and other people don't.
Yes.
But at the same time, there's just as many people that struggle with anxiety and depression, self-worth, self-esteem,
right?
That I've really, to be honest, never struggled with.
Yeah, correct.
I've had moments of that, but like as a daily worry and fear, weight is the issue I struggle with.
Yeah.
And there's people that go through life that don't ever struggle with that. I can't look to them and go, oh, dude, you've never struggled with that? Well, your life's so much better than mine.
Yes.
Because there's things that I don't struggle with that they probably do every single day.
Yeah, correct. And I would tell you this, like, that whole privilege thing, if you take a look at that video, there's all colors on the off the line, all the way up, right? And there's mostly minorities on the line, but there are white people on the line too. So when you take a look at that, there's all colors off on the line, all colors off the line. The one issue where people get really hung up on privileges, and you can talk to people who are wealthy, who are minorities, especially if they're driving like, a really nice car, they get pulled over a lot. And I've said this before, I've been pulled over rightly, where they pull me over and instantly say, hey, sir, do you know how fast you're going? Yep. Okay. Or, hey, sir, did you know your sticker was out of date? Did you know your left blinker's not working? Okay. So I get out, I look at it, and then they give me a ticket. I've also been pulled over where the first thing they say is license registration. I say, hey, can you tell me why I've been pulled over? And they escalate their voice. Sir, can you tell me why I've been pulled over? They escalate their voice. And then they unclip their gun, put their hand on their gun, and then I'm just like, okay, tell me what to do.
Yep.
That stuff, I'm just saying, typically Caucasian people never have to deal with that. And so when a minority climbs and gets out of their stuck privilege and they finally think they've made it somewhere and that happens, it puts them back mentally like I can never get away. And that's why people explode emotionally, Facebook and social media and stuff, when people say, hey, we're all in this together, kind of, sort of. But here's the thing. That's why minorities who've climbed out have that wrecked mindset sometimes, because they get stuck. And this is why people who try to climb and keep getting caught, they have that stuck feeling of like, I can never get out. Okay.
Yep.
And that's where we have to understand how to help because we have our privilege. So that leads us to number 3.
Yep. Are you immune?
Yeah. So if we take a look at privilege and hit pause, and now we just talk about COVID, I want you to think about something. If I've had COVID and I was down for 14 days or something, and I've been tested, and I'm immune, what do I do with my immunity? Who would I be?
Hypothetically speaking.
Yep. Right? Who would I be? I would cruise through life. I wouldn't worry. I'd run over to Shields. I wouldn't put a mask on. I wouldn't care about shaking people's hands because I'm like, I ain't worried.
They told you
I'm just going to fly through life. That's actually like privilege. When I have privilege, I just show up. If I have privilege on a golf course, I just show up. I hop in my golf cart. I don't even have to check in. I just cruise to the hole that I'm going to start on, and boom, I just play.
Yep.
Nobody has to check me. Nobody has to check license, registration. I don't have to hold an ID because I rented a cart. They don't judge me that way because I have the immunity. Do you understand? Now flip that upside down. What if we're under COVID and I don't have immunity? I'm scared that I'm going to get sick. I'm immune compromised. Now what? I'm not going out. I'm hiding. I'm isolating. I'm breeding depression. I'm breeding anxiety.
Fear. I'm
breeding fear. And I'm ticked off like no other because you who have immunity are going golfing. Don't you know we're in quarantine, bro? What the freak's wrong with you? Trying to kill somebody? You don't care about people? Like, how I'm here sitting here. And this is what would happen in real life. Like now, real life story, that's actually COVID in quarantine, right? That's how people treat each other. That is exactly, forget quarantine now and just talk about immunity as it's a privilege. It's the same thing. People who are privileged don't worry about being pulled over at night. When I was working in Des Moines, but driving back home to Sioux City, when I first got my job, right? So we moved to Sioux City. I didn't start for a couple months because I was under contract in Des Moines as a psychologist. Remember, you guys were living in Sergeant Bluff, and I was driving. So Monday morning, 4 a.m, I'm driving to Des Moines. And I got pulled over. I was in a white van, and this car is coming up behind me, accelerating, pulling back, kind of moving over, whatever, flashing brights on me, messing with me, honking at me. I'm like, what is this dude doing? This dude's drunk. I kept thinking, this dude's drunk. And I got creeped out because he pulled up to on the left side of me, and I couldn't see in. The windows were tinted. And then he'd pull back, whatever. So I'd switch lanes, like just trying to is this dude trying to get around me? So I switch over, and he'd get to the right side, same thing. And then finally, he just put on his sirens, and then because it was under the windshield, it wasn't on top, and he pulled me over. He puts on a bright light to my left mirror. He puts on a headlight in the front, and then he comes out with a flashlight into my right mirror. So I literally couldn't see through any of the mirrors. I put my hands up like this just because I didn't know what was happening. And he knocks on my right window, which scared the crap out of me because I expect him to come this way. And he's yelling at me. So he tells me to turn off the engine. I turn off the engine. My hands are up, and he's yelling at me. And so I look at him and I say, I was trying to, he's knocking on the window, roll the window. So I just keep my hands up like this, and I just put my finger down. I roll the window down all the way, and he's yelling at me. And he's basically saying, lights of registration now. And he's cussing at me, and he's freaked out. And I'm like, this dude has the wrong dude. He has the wrong dude. Like, Lord, in the name of Jesus, help me. This dude is the wrong dude. We're literally in the middle of nowhere on the way to Des Moines, between where you turn off to go to Omaha from Omaha. It's this long strip. There's nobody there.
Yep.
I'm like, I'm going to die. I'm going to be buried. Nobody's going to know.
Right.
Like, I'm not kidding. I've never been so scared in my life. Like, and I say this, like, that's the only time I got a flashlight and a gun pointed at me. He had his gun drawn, and he was yelling. Okay. And I'm sitting there going through all the stuff, and he's asking me all the stuff. So I unlocked the doors, all this kind of stuff. And I thought he was going to come in, like check the van or something, but he didn't. And then he's asking for my stuff. I give him my stuff, and he says, I don't want you to move. So the whole entire time I keep my hands up because I don't know what's happening, And he took a long time. He comes back, and he asks me some more questions. And he says, okay, you can put your hands down. But I put my hands on the steering wheel because I'm not playing that game. And then after some more conversation, what are you doing? Where are you going? Now he starts calming down. And he's looking in the van. He's like, why is your van empty? And I was like, well, my family's in, Sergeant Bluff. He's like, where are you going? To Des Moines. Why are you doing that? I'm a clinical psychologist. This is what I, explain that stuff to him. He's like, what do you do with kids? And I said, my favorite issue where I'm a specialist is it's called, it's basically juvenile justice, like working with teens who are criminals, but it's developmental psychopathology. Like, how do criminals develop? That's who I am. And so I kind of explained that process to him, and he's like, so you're a good guy? I'm like, yes, sir. He's like, you're one of us. Yes, sir. And I'm like, I'm trying to make your job easy. And he started laughing. And I'm like, do I laugh or do I not laugh?
I said, did he still have his gun drawn at this time? Or
No.
is this...
After he came back from the car, he had it, but he had the flashlight in my face still. And he was just asking me all those questions. And then at the very end, he gives me back my stuff and he's leaning in the window. And I'm like, hey, no offense, man, but I got to go. I can't be late. But actually I had time. I was just pissed. Like my heart was still racing. I'm like, I ain't trying to be friends, dude. I ain't trying to be friends.
Yep.
And then he's like, hey, I hope you can forgive me. He's like, we have to profile. That's actually what he said. And he's like, and you fit the profile to a T. And then when I left, I was so pissed. I cried, I prayed, and I'm like, I do everything possible not to be that dude who like gets profiled. I'm a married man. I have a PhD. Like I'm clean record.
Yep.
And he just drove around me and did all that stuff to profile me. Now, because I was a good guy, he told me, it's like, hey, we have to profile you. I told my supervisor that back at in Des Moines. I lived with my buddy Jack during the week. Shout out to Jack and Kristen. Thank you very much for that.
Yep.
Long time for me. Yeah. But what happened is she was like, are you okay? How are you feeling? Like, do you need time off? Like, no, I don't need time off. And then she asked a question. She's like, so are you still able to do this job? And I was like, what? No, I'm good. And she was like, is that gonna taint you, to help? And I was like, no, this is why I do that job. And she was like, oh, okay. You see what I'm saying? Like that's the part of privilege that Caucasian people can't understand. Like it's very rare for somebody to be profiled as a white guy.
Yep.
Okay. Now, on the flip side, people say to me, and they're my buddies, so they're close. They have the right to say it because I know they're joking. They're like, well, what's that guy supposed to do if a bunch of Mexicans are driving white vans and smuggling humans into the country? I was like, no, I get it. I fit the profile, but does he have to come, guns blazing and drawn in my face and all that kind of stuff? And on the other side, I get that too, because what if I had to pull out an AK? So here people always ask me, what's the answer? The answer is, in that specific situation, I don't think there's anything that could have been done. He was trying to profile me to the best of his ability. I was trying to be, hey, dude, don't, but he came in super, his adrenals were flying. Yep. Okay. So officers who've never been in the fire, they can come a little bit more calmly, but officers who've been through a fire a lot, maybe been shot at, they're going to come guns blazing.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. I'm not trying to be political on that side or whatever. I just told the story. And the reason I'm telling that story is because I'm not against police officers. I think they do a job. There's a whole nother thing where mom and I got detained for an hour coming back in the United States from Canada because I got profiled again. People ask me if, hey, is that wrong? Look, it's part of the drill. I get it. I don't want, you and Alicia going somewhere and some dude straps a bomb to himself. So if there's a dude who looks suspicious, fine, pull him over. But I don't have a record. So why did I get pulled over, right? Why did they detain me? So that's the part where you got to just work through the privilege piece, okay? So now, and with our immunity, I want you to understand something. What can you do if you're immune? What can you do if you have some immunity? And that brings us to our manager mentals.
Yeah. I think, when you're talking about that, I think that's, so I come out of a weird place too, because like I'm half Mexican, but I don't look Mexican because mom's like transparent. She's so white.
Yeah.
And so, but my last name's Sanchez,
right,
but my first name's Tyler.
Right.
And so it's like, I've never been profiled like that, but I understand with growing up in our family, like racism wasn't even an issue, right, but privilege was, I understood that there's just things I was born because of mom and her side of the family that we just had the ability to do and not to do.
Yeah.
And so I think that's the best thing that's come from this whole entire conversation in culture and society is that people now are trying to get aware of what's happening.
Yes.
Trying to get knowledge of what's happening.
Correct.
Trying to just at least hear the other person's side of the story.
Facts.
And the biggest thing we need to do, and that I've been encouraging through this whole process, is if you have no idea what that moment feels, I do through you,
yeah,
I do through family members. But if you don't know someone or haven't had a conversation, why I would just suggest that you do some research, talk to some people, find out some of this information rather than just making blanket statements and without really being able to talk about it. Because I can't talk about it, to be honest. I come from privilege.
Yeah.
I come from not being the minority the way I look. And so I've never felt that personally.
Yes, correct. So from you who have privilege, remember, you didn't deserve that privilege.
Right.
You just dropped in. So you can't brag. You shouldn't. And you can't demean people like, oh, they just need to get off their hole and freaking work.
Yeah.
You have no idea.
Well, I think I go back to the scripture spoke over us our whole life. To whom much is given, much is required.
Yeah.
And so if
But
you
remember, there's one before that. What do I say before that?
when you're faithful with the little things, God will bless you with a lot.
Yes.
Or
And
much.
then add the second one. So put them together so
Yeah.
people hear it. Put them
Yeah.
together.
So when you're faithful with the little, God will bless you with much. And to whom much is given, much is required.
Perfect. And this is exactly why we're having this conversation. For people who have privilege, who feel guilty, don't feel guilty. Who feel shame, don't feel shame. Here's the idea. The Bible says to him or her who has ears, let them hear. The Bible says to be quick to listen, slow to anger.
Yep.
What people, and let's just talk about this real quick. People see hashtag Black Lives Matters and people say all life matters. That's like if I have a t-shirt that says I love tacos and you go, bro, what about chicken? What?
Yeah.
Do you like tacos or not? Yeah, I'm down with tacos. Cool. Here's the thing. Personally, for me, I'm not giving money to Black Lives Matters because politically speaking, they have some issues that I don't like.
Well, there's a difference between financially supporting the
Yes.
organization or saying Black Lives Matter.
But if somebody comes up to me with a shirt that says Black Lives Matters, I'll hug them. You know why? I understand. I get it. Does a black life matter? Yes. Period. That's it. Was George murdered? Yes. Period. That's it. Show some compassion. Hug somebody who's sad. The thing that breaks me down isn't this dude's record and he should have been killed. Or I've heard this, his record sucks, so he should have been murdered in prison. What the, dude, stop. Here's the issue. The dude was murdered. The dude has a daughter. If you have a daughter, can you feel that pain?
Yep.
I can't imagine. Can you imagine Valencia? Can you imagine Stella?
Yep.
No. Be human and feel the pain. He was murdered and he has a daughter. That's me. My dad's gone.
Yeah.
Start there. So you see Black Lives Matters, you see one dude died and you go, that sucks. People are just dumb with this whole stuff. Like, yes, all life matters. Yes, chicken's important. But if I have a shirt that says, I love tacos, don't hate me because I love tacos.
Yeah.
So yeah, tacos are good.
I mean, that's biblical. Mourn with those who mourn.
Yes. It's so dumb. Why can't we just agree that a black life matters? It does. It doesn't say Black Lives Matters more than Mexicans.
Right.
Because I'm gonna be like, bro, what are you trying to say?
Did you see that video I posted the other day?
No,
It's a joking video about how just kind of ridiculous that is. And it's this girl who's talking to her friend and she just says, hey, can you come help me? My house is on fire. And she's like, well, why are we going to your house? And she's like, because it's on fire. And then the girl's like, well, why don't we come to help my house? And she's like, well, because your house isn't on fire. And she's like, could you come help me with my house that's on fire? She's like, no, I think we should help my house. She's like, well, your house isn't on fire. It's like that whole concept, like
yes.
you help in need with those who are in need in that moment.
Correct.
And you mourn, that's biblical. You mourn with those who mourn.
Right.
That's all that we're saying is in this moment, we're coming alongside. I heard another story that said to go against the saying that Black Lives Matter, not to support the organization.
Yes.
But is the same thing of like when the Boston Marathon bombing happened and everyone did hashtag Boston Strong.
Yes.
That's like us saying, dude, I'm not supporting Boston Strong. I'm saying Sioux City Strong.
Yeah. Actually, there were
or
people.
like bump Las Vegas Strong.
No, people
Iowa
are
Strong.
People are hashtagging Boston Strong and people would say, no, New York Strong. I'm like, you're dumb.
Yeah,
just because a baseball team or something, you don't like the city or something.
It doesn't even matter.
Just
like when someone's
support.
hurt, help them out.
It's support.
Yeah.
Like, are you human? Do you have compassion?
Yep.
A dude was murdered, right?
Yeah.
That's how I think about this Black Lives Matter thing is people walk by and be like, so do Chinese lives. So do Mexicans. Like nobody's arguing that.
Right.
Can you just admit that a Black life matters?
Yep.
Period. Okay.
Well, before we head out, as Marshawn Lynch said, tell us, manage our mentals moment, an action step, a brief thing that we can do, one takeaway that we can apply to our life this week.
Be the light. You have a light in you. So I survived the death, suicide of a dad. I survived being like a teenage kid, a kid raised to a teen mom, single parent mom. I have a lot of light in me because of the struggles I've survived. My job is to turn back into the darkness with the light that I've now discovered, my new awareness, and grab somebody and say, hey, how can I support you? Hey, how can I pray for you? How can I help you? And I grab somebody and mentor them. If you're a 60-year-old white dude, okay, mentor somebody. If you're a 45-year-old Mexican dude, mentor somebody. If you're a 39-year-old black guy, mentor somebody. If you're a woman with 3 kids, single parent, mentor somebody. All we have to do is everybody has a degree of privilege. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Here's the idea. The person who comes off the line, and this is what I learned when I went to prison. There were other speakers that I actually just joined their team. Sometimes they need extra people. So I'm a person at the table. I'm not leading the whole conference. And what I saw is people came to me just because I was Mexican. And sometimes if it's African-American speaking, just going to say black people walk to him. Just because I'm a Mexican dude.
You relate to them.
They just come to me. And this is what I want you to understand. At this moment in time, Christ goes before culture. Yes, I'm Mexican. Yes, I'm Texas. I'm a Texas guy. Yes, I'm Iowan. But Christ comes before those pieces, because if I see a Christian from anywhere, we're brothers. This is like we were in Chicago at Shed Aquarium, and I had Matthews. It's an archery company, okay, a bow hunting company, and we were washing our hands after like messing with the sea rays and all that, and I saw a dude just looking across, and he was just staring at me, and he looked at me again, and how my head thinks is like, is this guy going to attack somebody? Like that's just defensive. And he smiles at me, and I was like, "What's up?" And then as he sat up or stood up from washing his hands, he has Hoyt Nation. I looked at him, I was like, Hoyt, come on, bro.
A rival bow company.
A rival bow company. And so then all of a sudden we just high five. We hugged this before COVID, it's a high five, and hugged him, and I'm just sitting there. It's like, dude, you bow hunt? He's like, where you bow hunt? Saskatchewan. I was like, dude, there's big buck. Where you hunt? Iowa. He's like, bro, that's on my bucket list. And we started talking about bow hunting. Mm-hmm. We talked for like 15 minutes. I didn't even know this dude. And he's not Mexican, Caucasian dude. But then I get a text, and it's Stacy. She's, where are you? And I was like, dude, I got to go. I lost my family. And here's my point. Like at this stage of the game, you manage your mentals is turn back, find somebody who you like, right? Find somebody in your circle, find somebody who's like-minded with you, and pull them out of whatever stage of privilege they're in and level them up one level. Yep. Think about how our world would look if one of us grabbed one person.
Yeah.
If every one of us now
influence your sphere of influence.
Yes. Just one person at a time. That's it. Let's go. Be the light.
I like it. Revelation 7:9 says, every tongue, every nation, the picture of heaven is all nationalities, all tongues, all races.
Yes.
That's the picture that we need to accomplish here on earth. And how we do that is every person impacting one person.
I mean, if you really want to go there, I always say this. The Bible says Jesus was bronze.
He was brown.
Let's go, bro.
Let's go.
Get at me.
All right. Before we leave you, and you continue with your morning, afternoon, or evening, we just wanted to remind you that there are 2 times to be great: when you feel like it or when you don't. And next week, we are jumping into resilient parenting.
Correct.
Talking about how to be a better parent, how to raise resilient kids from the parent, speaking to the parent side
Discipline,
of that side.
Stuff.
Yep.
Yes.
So if we talked about anything that spoke to you on any level, please leave us a review. That helps our podcast. And then also, if you're watching on YouTube, please give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and ring that bell. And then leave us a comment if you would like one of these mugs on Facebook or YouTube. And any thoughts, questions you have in regards to this show, we'll hop in there and communicate with you a little bit. So renew your perspective, move toward uncertainty, and find what's awesome about that in every situation.
Peace.
Love you.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, boy, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.